elections there too.
Yep.
So then Jim and I were visiting a little bit too about, so when you came to college with your grandparents' blessing,
Mm-hmm.
when you're, how often did you go home?
Initially, I didn't go home. Well, I didn't have a car, and so I'd go home. I can't tell you the first time I went home. It was probably 2-3 weeks before I went home. Mine was not a matter of just missing home that much, because fortunately I'd learned to be away from home. The camps, Boy Scouts, I visited relatives. You know, I have a set of cousins in Kansas. There were 3 boys and there were 2 of us. Every summer we'd go to Kansas for a month. My cousins would come to Dallas for a month, and then they'd split us up. It took a month to break the habits that we all picked up from each other. And so being away from home was just kind of the norm for me. And when I came to college here, the girl I dated went to TWU. And I remember, I was smart enough to say, you know what, we probably need to just kind of break up, because we're never going to see each other, and we're going to meet other people. And we ended up breaking up that Christmas, because exactly what I thought would happen was going to happen. And I probably went home once a month, or if there was a reason for me to go home, if they needed me to come home for something, for whatever, I'd go home. As I got older, became a member of the fraternity, I never went home.
All right.
Yeah. My grandmother had died, and essentially my aunt and uncle, who were surrogate parents anyway. My mother died, my grandparents had 6 children. The 5 children got together and said, Mom, it's best you raise them, but we're going to do everything we can to be in their lives. And so they were. So much so that one day, I remember this is amazing. I'm walking down the street and I'm thinking, wow, I'm really missing out, because my mother and father are not in my life. And as I'm walking down the street, bing, my light came on, like, okay, you got a couple of friends whose, their parents are intact. And I started thinking about the friends that I have who had both parents, and how screwed up I thought their kids were. And I thought, whoa. And then I thought about, wow, how fortunate am I? Not only do I have a grandmother and grandfather, I have 3 uncles, I have 2 aunts, and I got a host of other people. So I have more mamas and daddies than I need.
I can stand sometimes.
Yeah. So as I'm walking down the street, and my whole attitude about that changed. That poor old me, that pity party that I was trying to throw, I recognized that all is not as bad as it seems. Yeah.
So your grandmother passed while you were in
My
college?
grandmother passed when I was in college. My grandfather was pretty stern, so much so that my grandmother and my grandmother, without a doubt, was God sent. I just know that she was, because she knew exactly what I needed. When we get together for family reunions, everybody would say, she's so easy on you. I said, guys, you don't really get it. Do you know that was exactly what I needed? I was 4 years old. My mother died. The mistake my grandparents made, my family made, the mistake they made, and they thought they were doing the right thing, is that my brother went to live in Kansas. I went with the grandparents. We were miserable. So they said, this is not working. These boys can't make it separate. So he came back. And so I told my family, I said, guys, you sent him to Kansas. I couldn't articulate to you that that's all I knew.
Yeah.
And so they after the fact, they said, we figured it out long after you guys figured it out, because you both were miserable. He was acting up and you were crying all the time. I said, yeah. And so My grandmother died in 1972. She died the summer of 1972. I was a sophomore. I just pledged. It was the only summer that I didn't go to summer school. Yeah, we were close enough, so close, that I would always tell her, I pray to God that I die before you because I don't know that I can live without you. Yeah, because I knew death was no stranger to me. Yeah, and if I heard an ambulance in the neighborhood while I was at school, my heart would pump. I'm like, oh God, please not let it be them. Yeah, and so I already knew that you could die. And so that's what probably made me cherish them even more so, because my mother died, and this is interesting, my mother died 2 days before her 29th birthday. That's how young she was. And so my grandmother died in 72, and I had always promised her, because my grandfather was mean. I understood him, but if she died, the balance that I needed was gone. And I'd always told her, if you die, I can't live here anymore. I can't live with him because he has no soft side. She died that summer, and I wrote my aunt and uncle a letter, and they were like parents to me anyway. Yeah. My uncle is who brought me to college here. My uncle is who brought me down here when I came here in high school on a basketball scholarship. My uncle and my brother brought me here the day I came to college. So my uncle was always a part of my life, still is. When my grandmother died, I wrote them a letter. I said, I made a promise to my grandmother that I could not live without her. Right now, I cannot live with my grandfather, and I can't live without you. You just got a son. Oh. And so I had 2 younger cousins, and I was like their big brother anyway. And so I moved with them, much to my grandfather's dismay. He hated it. He did that whole poor old me thing. I can't believe you moved. But I had to do what was best for me, because I knew that that edge I had in me, that anger that I had, a lot of it came from him and just from society. And so I didn't want that. I needed to shed that. And so lived with aunt and uncle. That became my permanent residence. And after that, after I got into fraternity, I didn't go home a lot because my everything I needed socially was here. And the ultimate compliment that my aunt and uncle gave me, one time they called my uncle and said, look, you coming home this weekend? I said, wasn't. He said, well, we'd like you to come home this weekend. We want to talk to you about some stuff. I'm like, oh crap, what did I do? And so went home and probably rode home with some friends, because most of my fraternity brothers lived in Dallas and everybody didn't have a car. You know, you just called pool, gave them some money for gas. And so I went home, and my aunt and uncle sat down with me and they said, look, a couple weekends ago, we went out of town. Girl stayed with your aunt's cousin. She said, look, we had this conversation that if something were to happen to us, what happens to our kids? And so we asked them, we sat down and we said, look, if we were to die together, who would you want to be your guardian? And so they named people, and they finally said, nope, it's got to be Glenn. My middle name is Glenn, and family called. She said, it's you. And so they asked me then, if something died, would you take care of our kids? And I'm a senior in college. Yeah, mind-boggling.
Huh, that's really touching.
Yeah.
Where was your brother when you were in college?
My brother was married. My nephew was, yeah, because I have a nephew who's named Derryle Peace. My nephew was born when I 10th grade, and so he was married.
In the area, or?
In Dallas.
Okay.
Yeah, he always lived in Dallas.